Yeah. So, in case people listening haven't been much in the real estate world, so there's the money aspect of it, then there's the time pressure aspect of it, and then there's the social rivalry aspect of it. It would sort of be like in the modern world, when you go shopping, you're usually not aware of the person on the other side of the transaction. This really personalizes it. Then, in addition to all of that, you're like a salesperson who only gets paid when they sell. So all that pressure together. So tell us, how did you learn to relax about that?
Yeah, it's evolve or suffer.
Very
And
good. Very
and
good.
that's really where your work has helped tremendously. I was working with 2 other agents today, and we were having a meeting, the 3 of us, and they were talking about how they're kind of feeling a little bit burned out. And I was talking about your work, and I was talking about the happy chemicals of the brain, and they were saying that they get so consumed in their email and then social media, and I was saying, yeah, Loretta would say that these give you dopamine hits, and that you're kind of addicted to these things like a game, that every time you get a new email, you're important in dopamine. And
Or important in serotonin and a new reward from dopamine. Yeah.
important with serotonin and a new reward with dopamine. And I just said, but it's really, this is like spinning your wheels. You're actually not making progress. So you're feeling burned out because you feel like you're doing massive amounts of work. You're doing a lot of time, but you're not doing any progress. And so we just need to rewire your brain and start to give yourself dopamine hits for doing things that actually are rewarding you financially as well, because you're doing the right activities. That activity for real estate agents is reaching out to new people we don't know. And usually on the other side of that is rejection. And those are the chemicals our brain wants to avoid. So we kind of
Great.
we have to recreate how that can be a pleasurable experience reaching out to new people.
Oh, okay. So how is that a pleasurable experience, reaching out to new people?
So what we do, I do it a lot of different ways. And the first is I say, if you know your brain craves the email and the social media, we're going to use that as a reward. So the thing that's really going to change your year next year is reaching out to new people. And usually it feels really daunting, like, oh, I'm going to call for an hour. And that just feels so big and so heavy. I said, what's a small number of calls that you could do super easy and it wouldn't be any sweat at all? And they said, 3. I could call 3 people. I said, great. Okay. Well, then all you have to do is call 3 people. It's super easy. No big deal. No pressure. Call 3 people. And then as soon as you do, go check your email and your social media.
That's great. Fabulous. And I'm curious though, you're saying that this person has the perception that they're working so hard and they're burnt out, but they were not really working because they were using their email for pleasure rather than work. Was that it?
Oh, right. Well, in real estate, we only eat what we kill.
Hmm.
So that's not a if we made 10 sales last year and,
Doesn't.
and we've made none this year, we have no income.
Yeah.
So if our email is full, our email is typically full of everyone we've already talked to. It's really not new stuff.
Uh,
It's the deals that are in the pipeline already that we set up 90 days ago or 60 days ago. It's the work we do today that will set us up for success 3 months from now. If we skip this new reach out today, we have nothing.
oh, great. Okay, great. So the other stuff still has to be done, but it's okay. I understand exactly. So yeah, this is what I do. My outreach, like trying something new, it's stressful. So I do it first thing in the morning. Still have to do the other boring details later on. But if you don't do the outreach, then life feels boring and like you're just running in the same place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're not growing, and then they kind of beat themselves up. Like, "Oh, I
Mm.
didn't do what I was supposed." They know they're supposed to be doing the outreach, and
But
yet
they're
they're
expecting
avoiding it.
it to just come from nowhere because
Well, there's cortisol, right? There's
mm,
stress.
okay, okay,
And
okay.
if I call somebody new, they could reject me.
So let's talk about that because that's relevant to everyone, whether they're in sales or dating or even like, you're choosing a gift for someone and they might not like it, or you're trying to have a difficult conversation with someone. So in my view, the fear of rejection, a big part of the cortisol, of course, rejection always feels bad and cortisol always feels bad, but a big part of it is that this rejection fits the template of some rejection in your past. And when you could figure that out and then go back to that situation and say, oh, but this is different because now I'm a powerful adult and I have more control over this situation. So I don't have to just replay that first rejection that wired me for all my future rejections. And I think it's very individual, because it's so if you could find your unique individual rejection.
Yeah, and I wrote about this in my chapter on overcoming fear, and I liken it to survival too. That
Mhm,
if we came up in tribes to survive,
mhm.
and then we said the wrong thing, and all of a sudden we're ostracized and maybe even banished from the tribe, we're gonna die. Or maybe
Yes.
we made a move on the wrong girl, and then we got humiliated, and then that eliminated all other chances for us to make a move on any of the other girls in the tribe. So then there's this huge fear, like the survival based fear
Mm.
of
But most of the time, one mistake does not kill all your future prospects, but we have the perception that it does. And I explain this in a simple way. It's like if you imagine that you only have one path to your future, and if you mess this up, then your future is destroyed. But if you think that you have 100 paths in front of you, and if you mess this up, then you'll just choose another. But what I'm interested in is, how do people react when you tell them this? Because I mean, the 3 calls, that's a great idea. But in general, when you talk to people about their rejection, they don't really love to go there. They would rather that you suggest that they eat turmeric, and that will relieve their anxiety.
Right. Yeah, yeah, people aren't super thrilled about healing old wounds.
Now, another whole angle of this difficult world that you're in is contractors. So contractors have really the same problems as real estate agents. They only eat what they kill. They are in a very time pressured situation. But even worse is like this physical reality, if a bad job is done, the house falls down, but on the other hand, there's so many things, all the government permits and inspections and everything. I just can't imagine how. I feel so sorry for contractors. I always say it because I used to be in this ladies' lunch group where these women I had lunch with were always complaining about their contractors, and I felt so sorry for the contractors. So let's hear your wisdom on this topic.
Yeah, they do have a really tough it's it, I know a lot of home builders and general contractors that are burned out. The clients have ridiculously high expectations, and then the labor that they're working with is some of the least reliable labor. And so they've got people that don't show up to work or have substance problems, and um, to hire maybe the best of that labor, you have to pay more. Well, then your price has to be higher, and then you're not winning as much business. And then the more you charge, the higher the expectations and demands of the client.
Very
So
difficult. Yeah.
yeah, it is a really tough spot to be in, that contractor. And again, so they're going to be fortunate to work with us because we're just super kind, and we're always going to be coming in to to help, because it's just, we got a lot of compassion.
That's great. That's great. Because once again, like so many people have this attitude that someone who makes money, oh, I could be mad at them because somehow just by the act of making money, they're cheating me, and not realizing how complex and just burdensome all of these home issues are, and how much risk is involved.
Yeah, and it comes back on them. It's like so my wife was a workman's comp attorney that defended the company. And she deposed so many doctors, and the doctors were so tired of attorneys because they were just subject to lawsuits years after these operations. And contractors are the same. They're so just tired and burned out of people coming back and suing them or demanding things years after they did work because now something is broken. And a lot of times something broke in the home that was unrelated to their work, but was around the same area where they did their work. And again, trying to get something for free. It's the same thing my wife dealt with as this workman's comp attorney. Most people weren't really hurt. They were pretending
Yep. Yep.
to get
Yep.
money. And then that's just like you see the worst of humanity over and over and over, and you start to get tired of watching it.
Yep, exactly. So trying to get something for free reminds me, I was always inspired in the beginning of my research by the David Attenborough wildlife videos. And you would see a group of monkeys, macaque monkeys usually, and they would find some wealth of food somewhere, and they would stuff it into their cheek pouches as fast as they could. And their cheeks would be, out like this, and then they would all run in different directions and quietly eat it. And I'm not even saying that they shouldn't stuff their cheek pouches. I'm saying that it's a reality for them that if they're just sitting there calmly eating a nut, that another monkey's going to grab it from them, and that they may not find more food, and hunger is a real and present threat for them. So they have evolved these cheek pouches that just pull out this big to stuff with food and then go and hide to eat it.
Yeah, we do the same thing, don't we?
Well, I'm not saying we all do it or everyone does it, but we all live with the threat of other people doing it, and no one is an objective judge of how much they do it themselves.
Yeah, for me, what I love to do is make peaceful financial decisions now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more I can make peaceful financial decisions in my own life, like reducing living expenses and not taking on
Yes.
large, large expenses, the less I have to stuff my cheeks and hoard because there's not as much pressure. So that lets me live more peacefully and also lets me handle these upset people with a little bit of grace and not having to fight for every tooth and nail because my peace and happiness is worth more than money to me.